Welcome one and all to what is a very bleak day in the history of AFC Fylde. The proposed resolution to end the National League season on unweighted points per game has been approved by a vote and subject to the Step 2 playoffs taking place, which they most likely will. Fylde will be relegated back to the National League North. Here in the world of Still We Rise, Fylde are very much in the National League promotion picture. And episode 11 contains a trip to Edgeley Park. It's somewhat ironic that we play Stockport, considering that I can't move on social media without tripping up over a jubilant county fan. I suspect the FA Trophy semi-final defeat last season is still a little raw. I will go on record as saying that points per game is a cruel mistress, with Stockport themselves denied a playoff place and Ebbsfleet Town narrowly relegated. As we keep hearing, these are unprecedented times, and no solution takes into account teams on a good run or who you've got left to play, whether they're clubs around you or not. In my mind, the three realistic options were to null and void the entire season, but that would deny promotion opportunities to the Football League, which isn't fair, and that's what we're all here for in the National League. We could end the season on unweighted points per game, or take the table as it was when football stopped. Even if it has negatively affected my own team, I think the right outcome has probably come to pass. However, that is very much a problem for Jim Bentley's real-life coasters. Here in Still We Rise, Fylde are managed by Charlie Tango and are ticking along rather nicely. There aren't many surprises by the way of our team selection for the Stockport game, with all the main players we left out against Alfreton Town or dropped them to the bench when we barely made it through to the FA Cup first round proper. That was in the last episode, so feel free to go and check that out, episode 10. All of those players that we rested, likes of Kyle Jameson, James Montgomery and Andy Taylor, are back in the starting 11. The only serious decision was whether to play Ryan Crowsdale or Lewis Montrose in defensive midfield, now that Montrose is once again fit. Based on the fact that Stockport are one of Lewis Montrose's former clubs, I've gone with him. I don't know if sentiment is the right thing to do at the moment, but we're going to give it a go as we travel to Edgeley Park. We are favourites. I was going to say heavy favourites. We're not that heavy favourites. We're 4-7 on. We're second. They're down in 15th. Our form excellent. Theirs fair. They are expected to play a 4-2-3-1. Manager, of course, is Jim Gannon, who I have a lot of respect for. And I've been talking about him very positively in the pre-match press conferences. We don't always get the pre-match press conferences down in the National League, but usually they turn up on the games against the rivals or teams, if you're top of the league, playing against others that are around you, or indeed if you're the bottom and you're playing a relegation six, then you can usually expect the old non-league paper to show up with a journalist in tow. Stockport are indeed playing their 4-2-3-1. In goal, a player I really do like actually, Ben Hinchcliffe, who is, I believe, a former Fylde player, because there was some talk of him this week and how he used to play at Fylde. Yeah, 4 seasons he spent. Played a lot of games across the Northern Premier League and then Vanarama North. I mean, thank goodness we're not relegated down to the Northern Premier League at the moment. He spent this season with Stockport conceding 19 goals in 14 appearances, but he's kept 5 clean sheets. I really like him. He's one of a couple of goalkeepers in the National League that I think are really good. Formerly of Bamber Bridge. Always like to see that. Now I'll let Kenny sort out the pre-match team talk. Nice bit of green happening. As you can see, more media interest here in the tunnel. I don't usually like to answer these sort of things. I'm just going to calmly say I'm expecting a fascinating contest. It should be good. Andy Taylor's been rock solid. He has indeed, actually. Long may the safety continue. Are you happy with it? No comment this one. No comment, Nick Horton, why he's left out. He's left out because Dan Bradley is more suitable to playing as a box-to-box midfielder. And I don't want to force people to start playing in positions they're not entirely comfortable with in a big game like this against a local rival. Local in the sense that both teams are in the northwest, and we've had a few ding-dong battles in recent seasons. I should say, I did enjoy Stockport County visiting Mill Farm this season. Very passionate, lots and lots of them as well. Absolutely rammed in the away end, and into some of the seating areas as well. But it was all good fun. There were a couple of pitch invasions and things like that, but nothing too untoward. I need to get this in. And it's Walker, the former Stockport man, with the strike, the early decisive strike here. Stockport just not clearing their lines. Jackson out there, not able to get the ball away from Burke, and Walker, a turn and shot from the edge of the box. Impressive stuff from the former county favourite. I think if you asked a lot of Stockport fans, they would take him back in a heartbeat. He was on loan at Stockport at the start of this season from Salford City, before returning to Salford so that he could sign for AFC Fylde. In one of the few occasions, actually, where Fylde spent a bit of money. Normally, despite having the reputation as a bit of a checkbook team in the National League, Fylde don't spend that much on their players. They do tend to pick them up, probably on decent wages, but... And Proctor just seeing his effort save there. But they don't spend a lot of money on players. It's a bit of a false position that's put out there. It tends to be wages that is actually the big cost to bring in the likes of Lewis Montrose, Danny Philliskirk, and players like that who, especially if you've got a league pedigree, as somebody like Philliskirk has. Luke Burke dropped down from Wigan. And Jordan Williams, he came from Rochdale. The two goalkeepers, I'm fairly sure, were in league football, Montgomery and Dan Lavercombe. So, Alex Whitmore as well, a league player. I believe he was Grimsby before AFC Fylde. So, obviously the chairman, David Haythornthwaite, who's obviously the target of quite a lot of the mocking today with Fylde being relegated, as long as the Step 2 playoffs take place, which they really should. His decree that the club will be promoted to the Football League in or by 2022 seems to be a bit lying in tatters at the moment. Although there's still time, and in fairness to him, he did make that proclamation, over 15 years ago. I don't remember many people having a bit of a go back then, when it was just a pipe dream. We'd look like we're going to take the lead into half time. We have dominated shots, 6-1. Andy Taylor's lost possession more than any other player on the Coasters team. I'm not going to have a go at him for that. No, I'm going to deviate from Kenny McKenna's advice there. I'm going to say that I am quite happy with their performance. If we can win this 1-0, I would be extremely happy. I'm just going to tell them I've gone off the demand more shout. We've moved on to encourage. We're going to give them a bit of positivity. I find that football can be a little bit negative. You know, demanding more of a player. Nah, let's encourage him. Let's make him feel good. A little bit of a concern with Neil Byrne being on a yellow card. He was sent off a few games ago, you may recall. And he was booked just before half-time. More efforts on goal now. 9 shots on goal, 6 on target. And they do tend to come from areas like this, with Walker again finding himself free with the ball. But it's this sort of situation where you've had a lot of the play, you've had a lot of shots on goal, and you find yourself up against a team on the counter. Bell offside in that instance there. Brothers, Williams, we sort of do want to get the ball out wide, don't we? But Williams taking the effort on goal. Here's Taylor. Oh, Hinchcliffe required to get across there. And a low one by Dan Bradley. He'll get a second chance to put the ball in here. He's not finding a teammate with that cross. 60 odd minutes on the clock. We'll just have a quick look at bringing on a substitute just to freshen things up. I don't think Williams has played well. I mean, he's not been our worst player. Montrose a 6.5. Can I take him off at Edgeley Park in front of the his former fans who used to revere him? I think that's a little bit mean of me. So I'm going to take Bradders off for Ryan Crowsdale. He can play in a central midfield role. So I'm going to put him on a central midfielder with a support setting, because he doesn't look a brilliant box-to-box midfielder. I think we'll give it another 10 minutes and then look to bring Mark Yates on, just for Jordan Williams or Matty Kozolo, one of the two. I often freshen up in attacking areas with our substitutes. When I say attacking areas, I mean not the defence. If I can. Just gives us, especially if we're in the lead, it just gives us a bit of energy going forward. And we can start really just using players like Yates, who should be fresh, as a bit of an outball. We'll then just adjust the tactics to move things over in his direction. So let's bring on Mark Yates. Mark is best as either inside forward or inverted winger. We're going to put him in as an inverted winger on support and then encourage Andy Taylor. He doesn't really like that. But we're going to encourage him to get forward. I do like one of the two wide players, either the winger or the fullback, to be on attack and the other one on support. So as you can see, we've got Taylor on attack, Yates on support, Kozolo on attack over this side on the right, with Burke supporting. It just means they're not getting in each other's way. What we are going to do as well is just going to focus play down the left. But let's not look for the overlap. We'll find the feet. Let's not run at defence for the moment. We shall leave the work ball into the box setting. Confirm our changes and back we go into the game. Lovely shot of Dan Cowan there. I did not mean that. I do find if you get to where you've put your cursor, you end up opening somebody's details. Here we go. Burke back to recycle possession. It's going all the way back to Montgomery. Walker. I have encouraged him to do a bit more running because he's really good on the ball. Doesn't give it away a lot, either with his passing or with his runs. And it's a penalty. Shall we let another player take it? I mean, Jamie Prox is complacent, and I never like to see a complacent player. I mean, this could be a risk to let Lewis Montrose take it against his former club. Why not? Will it let me? Have I done that too soon? Too late even? No. Number 2 is stepping up here. He looks calm and he slots it home. Lewis Montrose against his former club. His first goal back since injury. Put it well out of Hinchcliffe's reach there. Not a brilliant dive, but still was never going to get it. That's a 2-0 lead at Edgeley Park against Stockport County. Just makes you wonder what the season could have held for AFC Fylde. How'd everything gone? Ryan Jackson's about to be sent off here, isn't he? It's an early bath for Ben Jackson. Normally it's us that gets the red card, to be honest, so that is a bit of a turn up for the Bucks. Taylor now with a good run. Back inside to Montrose. Walker. And Montrose just inches wide. Not far. For Lewis Montrose, who is, of course, our defensive midfielder. Clearly getting forward a little bit too much. But this should be it now. We're 25 seconds over the time allocated. And I do know that added time is a minimum. But we have got the win. That's what counts. Especially as I can tell straight away that Barnet are also won their game. Yeah, I do like it when we get one over a rival. Maybe difficult to get out of Edgeley Park. We may have to sneak out onto the bus at the back of the stadium, a la, I think it's the first episode of the television series of Mike Bassett. You've never seen it, it's hilarious. But yeah, Barnet just keep winning. They beat Woking 3-1. It's not helping our cause there. In other results, Barrow and Ebbsfleet, 3rd and 4th, played out a 0-0 draw. Boreham Wood got the win. Well done. Has that got them off the bottom? No. They're still bottom by a point. But Yeovil did lose, so there's a bit of hope there. Sutton and Halifax a 3-3 draw. Solihull Moors over Chorley by a score of 4-1. Yeah. Chesterfield are the big movers, up to 13th. I think they were down sort of 17th, 18th region last week. So they've made a big stride forward. In terms of our next game, we've beaten Stockport. That is our 5th win on the bounce. If we include the FA Cup win, which I do because that was a hard fought one. In retrospect, I probably weakened the side a little bit too much, especially considering that Alfreton were on such a good run. I should have been more wary. I'll play the 2 home games in a row. Aldershot Town and Hartlepool United, Jeff Stelling's boys. Both visitors to Mill Farm in the space of a week. I mean, chances are that's going to be 1 win and 1 draw, isn't it? It usually is when we play back-to-back games like that in a week. And then, next episode, episode 12, will be Stalybridge. FA Cup first round. I've learnt my lessons now from Alfreton. It will be a strong side with perhaps minimal rotation. Stalybridge from the English Northern Premier. Thank you for joining me today on AFC Fylde Still We Rise. Hopefully I didn't depress you too much with the talk of Fylde's very real life relegation. Things can only get better, and who knows, we should win a lot of games in the National League North. So I shall see you again when Stalybridge are our opponents. Thank you.